You are listening to the USDN on the DFPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody? It's the chairman of the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. Some legends are written in history, others are forged in myth, and sometimes the truth lives somewhere in between. Tonight, we step into 16th century Japan, a world of warlords, honor, and betrayal, and a warrior whose story still echoes through time. An African samurai, a man who rose from slavery to stand beside one of the most powerful figures in Japanese history. But this isn't just history, it's transformation, it's mythology, it's destiny rewritten in steel and sacrifice, and something far darker waiting beyond the battlefield. Our guest tonight is Braxton Cosby, right? Yeah. #1 Amazon best-selling author, award-winning storyteller, and the creator behind the ambitious Yasuke duology, a sweeping saga blending historical truth, fantasy, horror, and redemption. The Council of Nerds is now in session. Braxton, welcome to USDN, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, absolutely. I know we've been waiting a hot minute for this one. I feel like you've been on the schedule for like a month now, and to finally have you here and having read your work and to welcome you here is truly an honor. But for everybody who is just now meeting you, who is Braxton Cosby and how did you become a writer?
All right, so I'm Braxton Cosby. I'm the CEO of Cosby Media Productions. We're a small press publisher down here in Atlanta, Georgia. We publish over 30 authors with 60 different titles in ebooks, audiobooks, and paperbacks, myself included. We have our own comic imprint called Star Child Comics, and we've published over 18 titles now, a mix of graphic novels and comics. We consider ourselves a hybrid publisher in that we actually publish all of our stories in both novels and comics, at least a vast majority of them. So a reader may come along and decide to partake in one of our stories, and they may start off in a novel, and it will transition you into a comic or a graphic novel, or you may start in a comic and it transitions you to a novel or a graphic novel, and vice versa. We feel that that allows us to cast a wider net for people who just like comics, or who like novels, or who like a blend with graphic novels. And it's been successful for us in doing that. We took that venture on probably right around 2020 when COVID hit.
Okay.
People were like, man, I say, what do you like to read? That's like our line, just kind of get you to come by the table. And they're like, we only had novels at the time. They're like, oh man, do these have pictures in them? I'm like, no, it's not a graphic novel. Yeah, I just usually read comics or graphic novels. So I kind of, at the time, I think we were around maybe like 15 novels in our superhero fiction universe that we built called the CMP DSU, the Cosby Media Productions dedicated superhero universe.
I like that.
Yes, me and 5 other authors, Daniel Payton, Lawrence St. John, Keyshawn Dodds, Kyle Champion, myself, and Genevieve Vickers. We actually have all of our superhero novels. So we were telling our stories in superhero fiction and novels. And I was like, man, you guys ever thought about doing like a comic? And everybody, majority of guys were like, yeah, okay, we could do something like that. So they were like, oh, so I'm gonna just retell book one of the series. I'm like, no. This is a continuation. Let's build out, So like, for instance, Daniel Payton has the Bark series. It's a 3-book series. Book 4 is his comic called Power Struggle. So I said, just keep going forward with your story, And so we did that. We wrote them up. We teamed up with some fantastic talent to do the artwork. And then we basically ran a Kickstarter to get all 4 first issues put together and finished, and we did. And so we got those out, and then since then we haven't looked back. My personal story is I've been writing since 2011. I feel like I had like a call in church one day to actually get into writing because I've never got into writing before. I rarely read for pleasure because I was always in school. I went in high school, went to college, got bachelor's, master's, and doctorate. So I was always reading because I had to, not because I actually wanted to have any pleasure in it.
Yeah.
Kind of called to it one day in church. I was like, man, what would I write on if God's kind of calling me to write? And it was like I heard this voice, like all that cool stuff that you like when you look at movies and shows. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I look at movies and I'll be like, man, it was really, really cool, but I wish they had kind of gone this way with it or gone that way with it.
Yes.
And I was like, take all that stuff, all that cool stuff, and then write your own story and put it in yours. And I was like, oh, okay, I could do that, And so I just sketched out this little story for the Star-Crossed Saga, which was a trilogy, which I do not recommend anybody do that on their first go around. Start with a novella. Maybe a one-off book, but don't start with series. I was just crazy enough to do it. And so I got that going. I got picked up I researched everything you need to know about how to get published back then.
Yeah.
What's the process like? What's the stories like? And then I just kind of started going, just kind of putting things together. I was fortunate enough to get my book picked up by a small publisher here in Atlanta called Firefly Publishing. I always give shout out to Diane and her work. And ended up winning an award like off the bat with like readers' favorite, sci-fi romance book of the year. And I was like, oh man, I'm very grateful, And so a year later, she decided to get out of the business and they gave me the rights back and I shopped them around, got a literary agent, got picked up by another publisher. Things weren't just going in the right direction that I thought with book 2 coming out. So I basically got out of the contract, got the books back. And I said, you know what? For what I feel a publisher can do for me, I feel like at this point, I think I can just do it on my own. And so I started up Cosby Media Productions, just started meeting some fantastic authors who had some wonderful ideas for stories and started just partnering with them. And that's what we've always done as a publisher. We feel like we partner with authors to help get their story out. We had a partnership with a larger publisher a while ago. And so we always had to turn the files over to them to get them ready to publish. And so they gave us like the template of what, the formatting was and and everything. So we had a blueprint. So I was like, oh man. So when we stopped working with them, I felt like we gave all of our authors the opportunity to have what I call the industry standard. So we wanted to give people fantastic book covers. We wanted to give them good formatting. We wanted to get them editing. And so we're partnering with people to get their dreams out into the world. And so we feel good about that. And in return, they've given us some fantastic stories that we can brag upon that have become Amazon bestsellers, that have become, award-winning titles. And it's just kind of poured into us as we've poured into them. So it comes out fantastic. And we're just so happy we have so many series that people can get into, whether you like fantasy, science fiction, young adult, even if you like poetry, or if you like inspirational fiction or biographies. We have a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
If you're a real hardcore reader, you can come over to Cosby Productions and find something that we think you'll like. And our mantra for our comic book publishing is come play in our world, because all of our stuff is like interconnected. Like you'll see characters move from one comic to the next in their stories, and there's a lot of crossover. So once you get started, you'll be able to like branch out and see the ripple effect of all this great storytelling in other books. So, we want our own little community of storytelling that people don't have to go anywhere else. They can just kind of stay right here and play with us for a while.
No, that's really cool. So you've written 20 novels in comics, and you said it grabbed you while you were at church. So at what point do you think your path towards comics and the like kind of genre fiction like come from, or did that just kind of, it was just an evolution of how everything was going for you?
For me, I've always been a huge fan of fiction. If I was going to read, I read fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would do like, even when I remember back, the earliest book that I remember that I really enjoyed that was fiction back in like elementary school was Fahrenheit 451.
Oh,
And
good
I don't
one.
know if it was just because they were burning books and I didn't want to read them, so that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what grabbed me. I
Yeah.
like that dark, kind of gritty fiction. I was like, oh, this is kind of like my thing. And then so I've always just had this desire, and I would always love science fiction. I always felt like the characters were just, there were always bigger fish to fry rather
Yeah.
than ethnicity. People weren't caring if you were black, white, and all that. They weren't caught up in the nonsense that we do on this planet. They are just like, there's something bigger Earth, that's going to just kind of destroy all of us. So there was always unification, and it really didn't matter what color you were, where ethnic background you came from. People were fighting for the same cause. So that spoke to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got wrapped up in fiction. And so when I finally got the chance to really explore this writing thing, I was like, man, I could actually write characters that I really like, that kind of reflect my way of thinking, that kind of reflect the characters in the world that I live in. And so, they say if you ever want to write something that you're an expert in. And
Yep.
so I feel like, hey, I'm an expert in my own life, my own world. So I'm just basically taking those people who I know, and I'm transposing these characters and story on top of them and making them live and breathe. So it's just really cool. I've dedicated some books to family members and close friends, like my Broken series, where I'm telling the story of first person narrative from a young girl named Kisa who's in a dystopian land. I dedicated that to my 3 girls because I wanted to put all 3 of their personalities in this one character.
Yeah.
I dedicated Yasuke, Dead Man Walking, to my father who passed away last year. So I just kind of find a place to speak from my heart in my stories with these characters. And I've been really, it's a great expression, a form of expression for me. It gets my thoughts out. And I just love story. I became a student of the game. I've read Snyder's book on Save the Cat because I do write screenplays as well, and I also read Robert Mackey's Story. Which, if you ever want to get into story, guys, I suggest you read that book if you don't read anything else at all. So, being a student, I'm always interested in writing the next best story that I can put together with freedom and structure. And I'm also, unfortunately, because when you get into this realm and you're really always reading story and writing story, I even see films now and TV shows. I see story, I see scripts as it first comes on, and I'm holding up this like, okay, you're on the clock. You better hit these beats a couple of ways in the beginning, or you're gonna lose my interest, and I'm done.
Did you watch the Sandman series on Netflix?
I'll be straight on it. We can be honest on this website, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I was going to. I was like really, really, and then all of a sudden I heard this stuff about Neil Gaiman.
All stuff aside about Neil Gaiman, you go get the first book of the Sandman. You open up page 1. You turn on episode 1, and just turn the page as it plays.
Wow!
So it is very beautifully done, despite all of the bad associated with his name.
Right.
Netflix did amazing at this series
Good.
because it is the comic book, and what you just said there had reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was such a beautiful thing because I'm such a huge fan of the Sandman comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this was before anything had ever come out about him. And I do believe he was just acquitted of everything, and all charges were dropped or cleared. However, it's still a stain on his legacy.
Right.
But that book and the way Netflix told that story, because I do know Noah was a part of the production team or a producer on that set.
Yeah.
So it was so beautiful, though. You could just turn the page and watch it, and it just told the same story.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's what happens when you get the the creator behind it. You know what I mean? Nothing's
Correct.
about the and I was going to say, honestly, it wasn't just about that the accusations. It was about, I like to get involved with series that I think is going to be around. And I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
they were working on season 2 and all that came out. And they were like, oh yeah, they're probably not going to finish after season 2 because of this. And I'm like, I don't want to start something.
They did rush it.
You know, but I didn't want to.
You could tell.
So I'm hoping that with the acquittal, they actually keep going, because then I could jump back into it. You know what I mean?
I think the legacy is too tarnished for them to want to do that, unfortunately, because they were telling such a amazing story, and the actors behind everybody, like, they were just so good for their characters. But, and that's a little off topic. I do apologize for that. But what you had just said there just reminded me of just how great that was, just to be able to sit there and do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know you started out writing novels. Were you able to kind of like take those lessons learned from writing like prose like that and kind of bring that into comic books? Because I know it can be a hard transition for some people because they want to shove a lot of stuff into a word box, and it just doesn't work that way.
I tell you, it was a great, you know how you like on the job training.
Oh yeah.
So I had written, up to this point, I had written like so many novels, so I was, you know, pretty good at keeping 3-act structure. But you know, in a novel, you can freelance. You can go for as long as you want, go down another path, come back down that road, and land back on that story of the hero's journey. In screenwriting, you know, we say that there's no, because every page is a minute, every minute a page. You know, so if it's a 90-minute film, you got 90 pages to get this done, and there's no throwaway scenes. If you're really writing scripts correctly, there's no throwaway scenes. It's not just the time to just, oh, I think it's really cool. It's got to have intentionality behind it, or else you lose the viewers. Same things with comics. There's no throwaway panels. So those panels, to me, really, 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 really matter, you know? And the transition of those panels, and then thus the transition of those pages. And then so I'm constantly sitting here when I script out a comic, I'm thinking about 3-act structure again. Even though it may be a continuum of story, I feel like if you're in a series of writing comics, then kind of map it out in your head. I'm going to go for a 6-book series. You need to have 3-act structure, comprised of that entire 6 issues. But in each one of those, what are you trying to accomplish? And it has its own 3-act structure for that. You know, even though it's an open ending that's going to get you into the next one, you know? And so, yes, to your point, when you go from writing 109,000 word novel to a 350 some page novel, and now you're trying to jam that whole idea, that whole outline into a 24-page comic, man, it's intense, you know?
Oh yeah.
But the challenge, though, I would tell you, is just so amazing. To take that on and like say, man, am I going to get this? And I got to figure out how I'm going to transition from this page to the next. Am I going to have like the last panel be somebody reaching for a doorknob, and then the next panel, the next page, when they turn over, this is a big splash page with all this chaos going on? Or how am I going to continue to keep the reader flipping the pages? That challenge has to be there. And I take on that challenge with still being grounded by the structure of 3-act structure, to make sure that there's a complete story told in every comic strip I write, every comic that I do, so that when a reader reads it, they feel fulfilled, and then they're like, man, now let me see what else I'm going to move on to.
Mm-hmm. No, I like it. And it's always kind of explain it as like you write a story when you're doing like a cis issue work. You know in your head, you know the beginning,
absolutely,
you know the end. How do you get there? And in your head, you know you're going to have extra bits in there, and it's like that extra bit is really good, but what are you going to sacrifice to the story to get that extra bit in there that you want? It is so difficult. And I know Nick Caspero, who does the Vitellarium series, did a phenomenal job when he did it too. And you have done that same thing. You've done a phenomenal job of translating over, which hard to do. And it's good to see people are doing it, because there's certain, I always say I've read books that I wish would have been a graphic novel, because the story would have been so much better to be with the pictures of.
Right.
Because there's such a descriptive writer. Like when you read the page, you can take yourself into it.
Right.
and you see what they see. You see the colors, you know, the smells,
Mhm.
and a lot of fictional writers don't nail that to me like a comic book does.
Right.
Like a comic book has that visual, you can physically
Absolutely.
see it.
Yep.
You know, if they're standing at an alley, it's probably going to smell like piss and trash. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But there's certain like fictional writers who are just so good at building a scene and a description of that
Right.
that you feel like you are there.
Absolutely.
So anybody who can do it, man, more power to y'all. We need more people who are willing to take that on and make their story, or take that risk of making their story into a graphic novel or comic book.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So let's dive into Yasuke.
Yeah.
What first drew you to such a historical figure who many still believe is not really, it was made up?
Right. It was interesting because I was just on the internet one day, just kind of scrolling, and I saw this image of this black man in samurai armor, and I'm like, oh, what is this? And I clicked on it. I was like, oh, it's probably just some made up picture, whatever. You know, I kept it going, and I just, you know, another day. I get back on the internet again, and then all of a sudden another image pops up because now I'm in the algorithm. You know.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, what is this? You know, and then so one of the pictures that caught me was the image that was another version of him, and he was standing with an Asian woman, and then they had a mixed child. And I was like, okay, hold on, where are they going with this? You know, what's the story behind it? So I started doing some research on everything, as much as I could, about Yasuke, and as much as I found that was historical relevance with him and Lord Nobunaga and the wars and all that stuff, the more questions I had. Well, how did he get from here then? And why would he elevate this slave to the rank of a samurai? And how come there's nobody else who's ever done that before? I had all these questions. So I was like, you know, this really has the makings of a fantastic story. Now, mind you, when I was working on this last year with the outline, and I started thinking my mind, I knew it was a duology because the way that the story of Yasuke ends, we don't know his ending. We don't know if he dies. We don't know what happens to him historically. And I said, this would really give me an amazing opportunity to put a graphic novel with this. Still sticking in our hybrid publishing mentality. And I can go a little wild with some fantasy here because you know, that's I want to do that. And so I had gotten through looking at the story Shogun. I don't know if you watched Shogun. Do you remember how that was a nice slow burn, these peaky moments, and then it comes back down again, and you just felt like you were transformed, you were taken into feudal Japan and the world that was going on, and everything just felt real and authentic and genuine. And I was like, this is the pacing that I want with Yasuke Dead Man Walking. This is how I want to do this. I'm so happy this came out because I want to be grounded. And I wanted to just dive into the world that I knew of and write a fictional prose that just connected the dots of all the history. And so I did all the research. I knew the geography of the land. I knew the seasons of the land. I knew how long the winters were. I knew the religion. I knew the factions, the different warring factions that were fighting against Lord Nobunaga, his mission to unify Japan. I knew all that stuff. I knew about the ninjas, the Buddhist monks, all of that. And so it was a matter of, honestly, just as I'm writing my fictional story, I'm just basically coming and I'm sprinkling in all these facts to make it authentic. So I always challenge people, hey, if you read Yasuke Dead Man Walking, I challenge you to tell me what's real and what's fake because I wanted it to just flow.
So that's what I really enjoyed about it is you can't tell where it's real. Well, you can in the beginning, but after like the dream sequence, I guess is what I want to call it.
Yeah.
It really, once the picture clears, you're like, I don't know what's real and what's not real. And I'm okay with that because it's such a good journey. And I was telling you before we went live, is this is how I do these things, is how I conduct interviews, is I take you through on a journey through the person's life.
Right.
And you did that with Yasuke, and it was a phenomenal job at it. Because you can sit there, you mention places, you Google it, and you're like, oh shit, that's a real place. You know? Because I'm the type of guy who will it's a 10-minute read, but I'm going to take 30 minutes to read it because I'm stopping to Google stuff along the way. I mean, it's not a 10-minute read, y'all. You want to take your time and read it and savor it.
Right.
You know, just marinate in it because it's really good. but it's always fun when I've always said I love fiction with a little bit of the real sprinkled in.
Yeah.
You know, like I see a fictional town in a book and I Google that town and it's a real town in a real place. And it's the same one they're talking about in the book because he's describing the gas station.
Right.
The story's 100% fictional, but the place is real.
Right.
It kind of adds that depth to the fiction that you're looking for. And it's so fun to read fiction with that sprinkling of real world in it. So and it's such an impeccable job at doing that, dude.
Well, thank you.
So mad props on that.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you about your research rabbit hole, but you answered that one. And it's amazing. I love finding little things like that to just keep on going. And next thing you know, it's like the next day and you're like, yeah, I went down that rabbit hole. I guess I did that. So I got to ask you though, what were you most surprised about with his real history?
The journey from the Sudan over to Japan, just honestly, I have a whole fascination for Japanese culture anyway, really Asian culture in general. And so as I went and I found these things out, Lord Nobunaga became a really, really interesting character to me, which is why, if you remember reading, like the first 3 chapters are really about him.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to, even though it's Yasuke's book, I knew that there were a bunch of tropes that I was playing with in this book. I had the fish out of water, with Yasuke being the total culture, everything. I had the odd couple with him pairing with Lord Nobunaga, because who would put them together? I had the father and son dynamic going on, all those things. So there was a lot of family enrichment in here too. And so I didn't want to just talk about Yasuke and then, oh yeah, he meets Lord Nobunaga and then this happens. I wanted people to understand the complexity of Lord Nobunaga, how he started out, how he became who he was, and then when they meet, because you're getting the history of Yasuke, I don't have to catch you up. And then everything just plays off very naturally, how they play off of each other and how they're kind of both kind of waiting and checking each other for a little bit just to see if this is even worth, investing in, this relationship. And then so when they do start to click and things happen, people have this nice wealth of information on both characters, and their unification feels very organic at that point because you have a good understanding of both of them. So I wanted to make sure. So I think Lord Nobunaga's research was what really kind of caught me the most, because there was a lot of that versus Yasuke, where I just had to kind of make the assumption that I go, well, this is how I'm going to tie this in. This is how I'm going to tie this in.
Yeah.
So, as you talk about historical fiction, yes, those real things are fascinating, but I had such a good time in creating this fictional narrative that pushed through all that. I mean, that's why it's written like with the dates and the real time. So there's timestamps in there to kind of show you, hey, this is this war, this is what happened here. And I was just playing around with the pencil, just kind of drawing it all up, man. It was a fantastic experience. I'm so blessed to be able to do something like that with a book that has been so well received, like from you. And Kirkus Review gave it the Get It accolade, and they said it's an epic historical fiction read. Literary Titan gave it 5 stars, and it's Book of the Month from Black History Month, which was just an honor for me. And also Reader's Favorite gave it 5 stars. So people are enjoying it, and I feel like the intentionality and the effort behind it, which was a huge effort to get it all done before the end of the year and have it released in February, it paid off. So I'm grateful.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. So what did you think about him showing up in a video game recently?
It was crazy because, like, again, I'm working on this stuff, and then all of a sudden I hear that he popped up in a video game. And before I had even written it, I knew there were some things out there. There was an anime out there. There was some biographical novels out there, but nothing really historical fiction. And I said, well, this is cool. They got anime, and I sat down with anime, and I was not happy with it, because again, I'm a person of story. Where you could have gotten me years ago with just explosions, cool stuff, fighting, and all that. That used to be my jam, but now I'm so story driven. I'm like, no, I need a story. I need a backstory. I need to know about these guys. It's not just enough. So for me, I just wasn't satisfied with it. And so when the video game came out, I was like, ooh, that's there. Let me finish what I'm doing first, because I don't want to be tainted with anything outside of what I was doing. And I definitely don't want to be drawn because I'm creating the story as I'm going to some respect. So Now that I'm done with it and everything settles down with this whole press junket that I'm on, I'll get a chance to probably finally play
Okay.
it. My friend plays it, but he said that he uses the female character in Assassin's Creed, and he loves it. But he hasn't even touched the Yasuke side of it yet.
Yeah, and Assassin's Creed is one of those games where I'm cheap. All right, I'll wait for it to go on sale and then I'll download it, or I'll catch it when it's free and then I'll download it. But that's all I'm waiting for. Is like I want to play it, but I also didn't want to drop $75 on it at the same
That's
time.
so ridiculous now with prices of games, man. I'm always on the, when is it dropping? Okay, cool, boom, let me get it, because I'm not in a rush.
Yep.
I've got a ton of games to play. Trust me, I don't have a shortage of things to do with video gaming that I have to go pay $70 now for a brand new game.
Because I'm the type of person also, if I do day one, I'm getting that day one drop. I'm not just going to drop the $60. I'm going to do the $120 deluxe with all the fancy stuff. So I just try to avoid it.
Yeah, if you're gonna
so
go
like,
in,
I'll catch it when it goes on sale. Like I want it, but yeah, I'll wait. I can wait a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I know we started off in the beginning. We talked about it a little bit. You started with prose, moved to graphic novels, and you kind of gave the background on why y'all expanded on that. And was that like I don't want to say a shock to you, or like how did because you're at a convention, I'm guessing when that happened. Like how did that, what went through your mind when you're like, oh, I'd rather read a graphic novel than a book? Like how'd that hit you? Like,
well, it wasn't odd to me because again, you always, when you're trying to sell books, you need to know your audience. You need to know where you are. You know what I mean? And so obviously, like I can go to like Barnes and Noble and do a book signing, and I can sell like 10 books in 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Because I'm around readers. At a convention, I'm there with people who are just like fans. They're fans of genres. They're fanboys of whatever they like. And so if you get some people who like superhero stuff, they might come over and pick up issues of the paper. If they like science fiction, they'll pick up my other stuff. And so it doesn't shock me that they're like, hey, I really don't have time to read. So I usually read like a comic or graphic novel. And there's some people who are just like, they're hardcore readers of novels. I haven't picked up a comic since I was a kid. But when people come by, you have to talk to everybody because you never know who will do what. I've had older women come by and I say, hey, what do you like to read? Oh, I don't read anything like that, honey. But what is it that you have? My grandson may like it.
Yep.
And you tell them a story and they pick it up, So you have to know your audience and what they like and what they're going to read. So I respected the fact that there are people out there who really just want to read comics and graphic novels. So I was like, hey, if it's no big effort other than having the money to pay the artist to do a great job, let's have fun. And it keeps me energized about being a writer, so I can have different ways. And I'm writing, I'm bouncing back and forth. I'm writing, I'll do 5 pages of a script in, one evening when I might do a whole chapter in a novel one evening, So it keeps my brain's always jumping. It's like, it's never fed. It's never full. It's always fed, And
that's the way it should be. You keep yourself fresh like that. And that's what I love about what I do is I get somebody like new every other couple of days. I'm learning about somebody new. I'm reading something new from them. And, I've made, lifelong friends, I hope, from doing this. And it's just always fun to just have something fresh and new and different and have a different personality, a different person, a different view on the show and get all these different perspectives about multiple business. Like you have a media production company, which is really freaking cool. And so it's really cool to get different flavors of different things every week. And it's one of my big things I push too, is like I get all these great people on the podcast who walk different lines, all within the same thing, but different touches of it. And it's so cool to be able to do this. So
I think the guy, I think the actor Eric Dane, I think he just
passed away.
And he had this last word thing on Netflix, and I love what he said when he said he told his girls he wants his girls to fall in love, not necessarily with a person, but with something.
Yeah.
Because when you really fall in love with it, and I know for me, I am in love with story. I just story, man. Story is my thing. Every time I write, I tell people all the time, I said, my next book that I write has to be my next favorite book. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'll go back through after I write a book, I'll go back to my outline and start looking at my outline. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to put that in there, man. That was really dope, you know? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I was grateful that the entire duology of Yasuke became my next favorite project that I work on because heck, I'm not done with Broken. I'm gonna have to start writing on Broken's next book soon. I'm not done with Still Rain. We're putting out his next issue 2 of his comic that's already completed later on this year. And then next year it's gonna expand back into the Starcross saga with more books. So I'm never fully out of them. And of course, there's always gonna be something else that I'm releasing for the Cape series. So I move back and forth, but my challenge is, Braxton, don't be done until this is the dopest version of what you want to put forward.
Yeah.
So when I speak out of passion. I speak out of confidence that I'm giving somebody something that I think they're going to fall in love with too. And I know they're going to walk away. I'm like, oh, you're going to love that. I just tell them when they say, oh, you wait till you get into that. If you're into historical fiction, you're going to love this. I'm not even worried about it, you know? So I feel good about it.
So how did you manage to balance the historical authenticity of Yasuke with kind of like that mythic fantasy that this book gives you? Because it's a tough line. It could either flow either way, but you've managed to balance both of those within each other.
Yeah, it was it just happened naturally, man. I tell you, I mean, like I said, I came up with my own like a solo outline of how I wanted to take this hero story. What's his theme? What's his desire? What's the inciting incident that takes him on the journey? What is the decision that he determines to go on the journey? And then I move. And then so the key to what I did was I wanted to make feudal Japan in that time another character. When you talk about world building, it wasn't just a world that they lived in. It was a character in and of itself. So it had to live, it had to breathe, it had to have these elements with time, with existence, with the geography for the fights and the wars and stuff like that. And then the land had to produce certain types of food and that they use for commerce. And so I wanted to make sure all those things spoke on their own. And so as this world around him is just growing, it actually has its own personality and its own life. And so it was an easy balance then because I was just literally just sprinkling stuff in and talking about where we were sending this character to go do something while another one watched over this. And then these other people were constantly, there's always conflict with this story with Yasuke. It's either internal or it's external. It's either one, but it's constant. And so those are the challenges that make people hopefully connect to the character and root for him as he goes through this. But I felt like it was almost like a D&D board, you know? And the character, you just moving your character. And then when you get to a certain point, it's like, boom, this is happening. What are you going to do? Oh, let me roll the dice and see if it works, you know?
Yep.
I felt, you know?
So let's jump over into do a little bit about the sequel. So the sequel introduces the realm of elsewhere. What inspired that shift?
I wanted, you know, I grew up in a time when I was a kid. There was a show called Samurai Sunday, man. Every Sunday, 7 o'clock, down in Miami, we would look at this show called Samurai Sunday, and it was all Asian films. You know, they would just have these films, and you know how it is. The guys be running off the walls, fighting each other. They get punched like 30 times in the chest, and then some little bolus of blood would come out, or they get stabbed, and they would take like 5 stabs before they truly be dead. So I was like, man, I want to do that. I want to have this realm, but I just came from real historical fiction, so it couldn't happen here. You know what I mean? But I wanted Yasuke to have some kind of inherited talent and power now to be able to do those types of things, make it really, really cool with some ninjas in there and some fantastical creatures to fight and all that. And so I had to drop them in another realm, which is what I did with Elsewhere. And I also wanted to create some new characters that would actually help push him through this journey as well. So in the 75-page graphic novel, I had an opportunity to create this new world with these new rules, because in writing you have to have rules, and I had to establish those rules early, and that way when the character plays around in them, the audience can follow. And you know, who doesn't like a big ass sword? You know,
oh dude, yeah. I think a big ass sword makes everything better.
So I wanted to get that in there. You know, we call it the basag. It's a big ass sword and gun, so it's a gun sword.
That was actually one of my next questions, so I'm so glad you went there.
Yes, I did, and so that was what Yasuke had to wield. And so, you know, shout out to Samurai Sunday. Shout out to Final Fantasy VII with the big swords. You know, shout out to Black Manga with with Afro Samurai. So I wanted to do
yes.
the things that I love and bring them into story, and that's what I did.
Dude, that was the most perfect segue. But I got to jump back up a question and talk about characters like Tengu and Nira.
Uh-huh.
Like, what do these characters represent in this?
Yeah, Omocha is kind of like the guide, little devil character. He's like a guide, and has the kind of he's basically the side exposition of kind of telling Yasuke and answering the questions that Yasuke has. And then Yanira is somebody who he meets, and then they connect in a certain way to kind of, again, I'm going to go along with you. Not sure where this is going, but hey, I have no other options. And then, of course, down the road, there's some other characters that are mentioned as well. And so, like I said, when you're writing a script, you have your lead and you have the support characters. So you introduce them as early as possible, and then you play around with them as they move and as everybody is being a part of resisting the conflict. How do they respond? But you have to kind of come up with their characterization really quick so people can have an expectation of how they'll respond. And then when they respond differently, you got to start scratching your head. So that's what I did by introducing those characters in there.
Yeah, he did feel very much like a guide through like a D&D game board or something like that,
Right,
and it was just so cool.
Yeah,
like the simplicity of the character was really cool too, and it was just like, how fun is it to have a little devil take you on a little adventure through Elseworld, or elsewhere?
Yep.
Like, just so cool. So this darker fantasy layer changes Yasuke's emotional journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how was that? Like, were you trying to reshape him as a character, or were you just trying to build more layers into the amazing character that he already is?
You said it exactly right. It was about making him more layered, obviously, because there's a huge thing that happens to him in this story itself. He's got a couple of big events that happen to him, obviously, in the historical fiction, but in here there's another thing that takes place. And I think that the more these things happen to him, these events, the more Yasuke grows. He keeps reshaping. He keeps turning to something or somebody that is necessary to get him to the next level. And so all those layers, I think, just continue to build on him. And he's receptive.
Yeah.
Receiving it. That's the difference. A lot of people aren't. They don't want to, I don't want any change. I don't want anything different. I want to just be who I am. But
it took him a couple of pages to get there, though. And that's what was great about it. He's like, no, you got the wrong dude,
Right.
And then, like, you see him slowly, like, okay, let me let this guy take me on this journey because it has to be taking me somewhere.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see. It was really fun to read. And what were those books back in the day where it was like a pick your journey,
Your own adventure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it almost felt a little bit like that. And I was just like, I would turn the page and I'd be like, I don't get to pick it, but it's still kind of cool, because that was the vibe I was getting there in the beginning of it. I was like, as I was turning, I was like, maybe it's going to tell me, I can pick which way I want to go.
Right.
So that was really fun. And if I know there's going to be adults listening later, so if you really like those, this is just like a perfect book for you. If you like, you pick your own adventure stories from when you were a kid, but for an adult, you don't get to really pick your own adventure, but it feels like it's about to give you that opportunity to pick your adventure because the way the story is written, and it's spaced so good. Like, it's almost like you're inviting the reader into it. It's like kind of like I wonder if this is where they're going to go with this part, because you have a panel with no words. You're like, I kind of want to just like maybe do something right here. So, and it's just really fun. I mean, don't draw in your books, people. It's very bad.
Right.
Or draw in your own books. It's your book, but that just gives me the EBGBs. Right, like, especially like I've had like comic books being signed into the whether it was the writer or the artist just do a bad signature and they feel really bad. I'm like, as long as it looks like your signature, and when I send it off to be graded, they recognize it as yours. I don't care how bad it looks. You don't have to like. Don't do that, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is such a fun book. But I want to talk a little bit more about the comic industry and publishing.
Okay.
So you've worked across novels, comics, media. What have you seen this? You've been doing this since 2020, right?
So comic books, yes.
Comic books, yes.
Mm-hmm. Publishing novels and stuff since 2014, 12.
Okay.
So,
but what to you has changed the most in that time frame?
To me, I think it's fantastic to see the indie scene explode, right?
Dude, I'm making it into a living, and I love it.
Yes.
Well, someday it'll be a living,
Right.
Until then, I got a day job.
Your passion, yeah, absolutely. The day your passion can become a living, man,
it is amazing. It is amazing because, I'll sit here some days and I'm like, it kind of feels like a job. But then I'll have Braxton on, or I'll have Todd Black on the other day, and I'm like, this is why I do this.
Yeah,
because it no longer feels that way. Once you're in the conversation and you're just talking to dudes or whatever, and it's like, and this isn't a job. This is fun. Getting to talk about the industry, about the projects, the work. This is fun.
I would have never dreamed to be doing what I was doing today. I mean, it was never in my radar. I mean, I was in the 5th grade. I remember a friend of mine, we were into comics, and he came to school one day with like a 10-page comic. I'm like, what is that? He's like, oh man, I drew my own comic. I'm like, what? And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, oh man, this is super cool. So I want to do that. So I remember I think I did like a 5-page thing, and I just kind of walked away from it. And those characters I'm still going to bring out. Actually, they're going to matriculate right back into the cake because it was superhero based.
So it's funny you mentioned that because Zing, who was just on the podcast not that long ago, his character, Prince Adonis, is the same character he drew and wrote 32 years ago. And it's the same guy persevering today. So
yeah,
those characters those stick figures you drew as a kid.
Oh, they're gonna come back, so I think that's what it is. Like to me, I've learned that it's really about when you're selling comics, there's the big two, DC and Marvel. Most people they got 7,000, 14,000 characters. So most people have already chosen people who they connect.
Oh yeah.
But when you're trying to sell, if you find that niche, you find that hole where you do something that's totally different that people have not, that really doesn't exist out there that they can't connect to, that's when they're like, oh, what's this about? Oh man, I want to get this. This is great. And that's when people come along. Like sometimes when you're trying to sell them a superhero, it's like, well, this guy kind of looks like Green Lantern, or he kind of looks like Captain America. So they kind of already have their mind of who they like.
But I think so. Comics have been around since like the 20s or the 30s or something.
Yeah,
you're gonna get some repeats to some degree.
Right.
I don't want to.
There's no way. Absolutely.
It can still be original IP and still look like somebody else's IP because that's just where we're at this time in this world, and it sucks to say it that way.
Yeah.
But there's no more truly original IPs, depending on who you ask. But I still see every character as its own character.
Right.
Yes, it looks like Green Lantern. I'm sorry, but this is what I dreamed of, and this is what I wrote.
Right. Well, me and you understand that, right? But we're talking about consumers. And so consumers are like, that looks like Green Lantern. I'm not interested. And you're like, but the story is so different. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we get it, and so I think
the story is the make or break, right?
You understand, it's the story, but you got to give me an opportunity to do an elevator speech so you can know I have a different story. So sometimes people just look and they just walk by. I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do about that, So
that's another that goes back to one of those big lessons learned. Be able to sell yourself in 30 seconds or less. Because some people at conventions are going to give you 30 seconds or less. Sell me your stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to know your story inside and out, front to back, for it to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And see, so here's the graphic novel, right? Now you see, let's see here. Yeah, Yanira's here. So when we talk about connected universes, I'll throw you a pitch real quick. ANVK.
What's ANVK?
There you go. Thank you. African Ninja Vampire Killers. You're interested?
Fucking in.
Yeah. And so that's one of our comic series it has no novel associated with it. Author Kaio Champion, who's done Our Majesties of
No,
Pan.
for real. I won't in. Send them my way.
Oh yeah. He basically came up with AMVK, African Ninja Vampire Killers, and so issue 1 came out, and that was like people walk by the table and you say, "Hey, you ever heard of AMVK?" They're like, "No," and you tell them that, and they go, "What is that about?" And they come back, And so when we talk about this continuum of characters, Yanira in here is going to be in issue 2 of AMVK, and you say, "How?"
Okay.
Well, you just got to read the graphic novel to find out how we get there, But I'm going to be co-writing that with Kaio Champion. So, man, it's just going to be some dynamic storytelling going on.
I won't in on that one.
For
Bottom
sure.
floor. Hit me up.
All right. So that's what I've seen. I've seen indie explode. I've seen some indie that needs a lot of work too. You know what I mean?
I see both sides on a weekly basis.
And that hurts sometimes because you see it and it's like, I don't want everybody to think
still
I'm
promote
like,
them though. You know what I'm saying? I will still promote them because I feel like every indie comic deserves that chance to be in the spotlight, for them to sell you to their story.
Yeah.
Is the art where it should be? Not yet, but 5 years from now, that art's going to be on point, right?
Right. Absolutely.
That story is missing a few elements. Give it 2 to 3 years, that story's going to be on point.
Yeah.
And they're going to circle back and retell those older stories because they've grown. So I believe every indie comic deserves a spotlight. Mm-hmm. And I try to give every indie comic that spotlight.
Good.
Within reason, because I ain't but one person.
Right.
But that's been my belief, and that will be my belief always is you may be right in something and it may not be to that person's standard, but somebody out there is going to see that and go, I freaking love that. That is so cool that this person not only is putting this out there for people, but they're brave enough to put themselves out there, to be vulnerable, to put themselves out there that way. Why would I not give that person a chance or that story a chance?
For sure.
And that's what I love about indie comics. There's something out there for everybody at every level of the game.
For sure. Absolutely. 100%.
Which is how we do it here. What advantages do you think indie creators have right now? Because there's a lot. And we see it every day. This industry is flourishing from an indie perspective.
It's the freedom. You don't have any restraints. And I can say that from being published to going into doing it by myself, I want to do this kind of cover. No, I don't think you should do that. Well, I was thinking about this character. No, probably not. You probably need to write this kind of character. I mean, you basically can go and do anything you want. They can represent anything about you. I tell people all the time, the character I would create, like my whole Mount Rushmore of characters and stories that I have placed a part of myself in all those characters for reasons, And so it becomes expression to me. I used to do some acting and stuff like that before. And so I think all of it is art. If you're an actor, you see a character on a script, you embody that character, you're creating art. Same way you write these stories, you're creating art in what you write. If you're writing comic script and you're working with an illustrator, you're creating, visual artwork medium to tell a story. So I'm all about just people expressing themselves, no matter how they want to, And I think it's dope when I see.
I owe you an apology. I forgot to update my scroll wheel at the bottom, so it's been rolling the scroll this entire time.
Oh,
I do apologize.
That's fine. And I think I do talks with kids all the time at schools and things like that with author visits, and I tell them, I say, who here writes anything? Nobody said it. I said, well, who writes rap? Some people write rap, some people write poetry. I said, you are an artist. Mm-hmm. And you are just expressing what's in here, and you're putting it on a paper or a pen, or you're typing it, or however you're doing it. You're singing it, you're using your voice, whatever you're doing, you're just expressing yourself. And as a human being, there's nothing better than being able to express what is in that small little voice inside your head. Yeah. And if people like it, it's even, you just feel so grateful that they actually dig what you're thinking about.
No, 100%. And so I went today was New Comic Book Day. Went to New Comic Book Day. Went to And I have a bots. Obviously, comic books is kind of like what I do. I don't just do them. I read them and I collect them. And as I'm going through my stuff today, because he'll put some extra stuff in there, like, hey, this just come out or this or that.
Okay.
And I'm just like, I'll kind of weed out the ones I don't want. And I'm like, oh, I'll give that one a try. And I was like, he's always giving me like crap about it, but I don't read it. Like, there's a couple of Marvel characters I'm really interested in, but they're very obscure. So whenever they do get a new release, I pick them up because it's such an obscure character. They might get a 6-issue run, or they may get a 10-issue run, and then they disappear again for 5 to 10 years. And I'm okay with that because I know that 5 to 10-issue run is going to be amazing.
Right.
And it's the same thing with DC. And there's just not a whole lot I'm really into it. So for Vertigo's back out now, and now they're producing those darker, grittier comics that I really enjoy reading, which is why I love indie comics so much. It can be darker, it can be grittier, it can be bloodier, it can be whatever, and they're not restricted or held back by some guy in an office going, hey, we can't sell that. You can on the indies.
Right. Exactly.
So in the accessibility now to indie comics is at the best it's ever been, and only getting better on the daily. So it's really cool to see where they are going. But what mistakes do you think some of the newer creators are making currently? And there could be a laundry list of those, but what do you think has been the biggest one that you have seen? I mean, as a media company, I'm sure you've seen some.
Yeah, I think just being sloppy. You got to realize that you're representing not just yourself, but you're actually representing the family and the community of indie publishing. So if one of us looks bad, a lot of us look bad. So people go, "Oh yeah, that's that indie stuff." They might not even take it seriously.
Yeah.
Just be clean with it. I've seen people who like publish comics and they'll go to a printer who printed their comic and like some of the stuff is not cut all the way to the edge of the page, or even some of their stuff is cut off, so they didn't really pay attention when they had the dialogue and things written, so it got cut off, and they go, oh yeah, I didn't have a chance to do this and that, and you're selling it. Be patient. Be patient. Make sure that when it's done, it is worthy to be read and to be scrutinized. Because I don't have.
It is going to get scrutinized.
I don't have a problem with any criticism as long as it's justifiable. Like, you didn't like my story. Well, tell me why you didn't like it.
Did you even read the story? Oh, so you looked at the cover and then looked at this and then just said, this ain't my thing and I don't like it. I hate it. Come on.
Right.
I've started many a comic book series where issue 1 was hot trash. Issue 2 was one of the best things I ever read.
Very cool.
So don't just, as they say, don't judge the book by the cover.
Yeah.
Because number 2 might be fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you actually have a whole team of collaborators, which is really cool. So how important has those collaborations been with your company and your artists and your writers, and all just kind of like, hey, let me get that character over there for this one issue to do something cool with, and like, how is that there in-house for you?
Yeah, we put this, like I said, it just kind of all happened. It was great. All these characters kind of came and they all made sense. And we had a lot of authors who had already created these characters before, like Keyshawn Dodge had already done 2 issues of Menzuo when he came to us to publish them. And he said, I want to republish them myself. So he had his own breathing world. He knew about it. I learned from him as I was writing and creating my superhero characters. Kaio Champion had already created Majesties of Canaan. And I was like, oh, what's that about? And I started getting, so I kind of fed off of these guys. And then as we just started getting together, when we wrote like Infinity 7 books 1 and 2, which is like our Avengers Assemble, and we had those characters cross over with, Gods Among Men and War of Gods, we were able to kind of read each other's works. Okay, you take this chapter, I'll take this one, and we could ask each other, I was thinking about writing Paladin like this. How would he respond in these situations? Well, I don't know, Bless might be like that, or what about Menzuo and Dim Rose? And so we would kind of pull from one another. So it was great. And then what we do with our artist teams, you got like 5 or 6 artist teams. I look at their style and I go, I think this might match what you're doing over here, Lawrence, with I kind of like Marcelo, his style to work with what you want to do with the comic book for Metatron. What do you think? And they kind of collab, and it's like, okay, cool. And so we match those styles with the art form or the vision of the story.
Okay.
And it's just wonderful. It's magic, man. It's like it's like Christmas. You wake up, when they send you the email in the next few pages, you get a chance to look at them. You're like, oh man, this is gonna be great. And when that thing finally comes in the mail,
Oh yeah.
That's
the feeling I get every time I get a new package from a creator. I'm like a kid in a candy store. That's why I started doing as I was telling you, like from what's in the box. It's one of those where the reaction you are seeing is me genuinely opening up that package at that time. Yes. Do I know what it is? 9 times out of 10, yes. But it's that genuine excitement and feeling of having that new piece of comic book or trade paperback or that new, whatever from this creator in my own hands to where I can actually enjoy it.
Right.
The smells, the feels, they're just, and I say this all the time, I love the smell of a new comic book. Because in every production company or every printing company has its own unique smell. It's weird. I know. I cannot identify which book came from which one yet, but I will be there someday. But it's one of those where it's just that genuine excitement of what it is that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
So the passion you see from my What's in the Box series is genuine because I'm really excited. I'm like that 12-year-old kid still to this day, 30 and some change years later, and it's great. It's fun for me to be able to do that and share that excitement with other people as well,
Absolutely, for sure.
But what role does visual storytelling play compared to prose, especially within that collaborative effort? I don't know if y'all do collaborative of novels that way, or if it's just your comic book side of the house that does things that way.
I think the visual, like I said, it's like, when you're writing a prose, you got all these ideas in your head. You try to describe it as best as possible. But you got to remember that somebody's brain works differently than yours. It's mapped differently. They're going to see those words in that environment, and they're going to come out with something totally different. As opposed to when you finally get to the chance to tell the story visually, for me, there's a responsibility to really, I like expression. I like character spaces. When I did Broken was such a passion project for me that it was a very painful novel to write. When I got to the graphic novel and the comic, I told the artist, Ron Silva, I said, look, we're going to be close in these characters. I want to see their eyes. I want to see the passion, the fear, the anger, all that expression to come out. So when people read these pages, they know these characters are really passionate about what they're doing. And so for me, I think there's such a responsibility that in your art that you're showing more than you have to tell. Mm-hmm. And that way people can pick up on those cues of kind of just watching. Because that's what we do as people. We walk into a room, we know people's faces, expression. We kind of know, like, you got to read the room. We want you to read the comic and then get to the dialogue in the story.
And that's such a hard thing to translate, right? Is expressions on characters' faces in a novel or not a novel, but a comic book or a graphic novel. Mm-hmm. And when it's done right, it's such a perfect thing to see when you can read a person's face and just tell, oh, that person's pissed off, and you're looking at their eyes and see what direction it's looking in. Right. Somebody is about to take themselves one.
Right, for sure.
So, and the eyes are the pathway to the soul, and that can be said about same characters in comic books. When done right, it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yep.
So, but let's see what's next. So, over 20 books, multiple awards. What is keeping you motivated and pressing forward? I mean, you have the passion, dude. There is no doubt about that, and I guarantee that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. We all grew up with toys, right? We're nerds, we're geeks, whatever name you want to label on. So I just always, I was so excited. I wanted to play video games. Video games. They're like toys without the strings.
Oh yeah.
And so you make your character, you create them, and you get in this world and you play around with it, and you try to accomplish some goal. And that's what I do with this character now. I just write them, So and then I try to say, okay, well, what's the rules to writing these stories? What are the rules that if I do this, that it's going to be successful? So using 3-act structure as my bread and butter to continue to keep me grounded and to keep me within the realm of storytelling that I feel is going to make a success.
Yeah.
And coming out with something fresh every time is really what drives me, And so that's how that's how I stay fresh in the industry. And I just feel like there's no book or story that I'm not willing to try to tell. So
Yeah.
it'll be my Mount Rushmore guys now. I'm sure there'll be another story that'll pop up in my head one day and make me go, oh man, I gotta check out that one too, man. I want to see what we do with that one.
Mm-hmm. So what's next? What future plans does Braxton have for us?
Well, like I say, this year we'll be on our convention trail. Next month we'll be in Alabama at Huntsville Comic Con. In April we'll be
Roll Tide.
Huh? Yes.
Roll Tide. I had to get it out there, man. I was born there.
All right. We'll be in Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
For the South Carolina Comic Con. We'll be back down in Atlanta area with Liberty Books. They'll be hosting us for First Comic Saturday. So I have all my Universal stuff there, novels and comics and graphic novels. In June, we'll be going back to Charlotte, North Carolina for Heroes Con. Love Heroes Con. In July,
such a great convention. I'm going to try to make it down for this one this year.
Oh, fantastic! Will you come on by, man? Get a chance to check us out. And then also making our way back to Tennessee. We haven't been in a couple of years, but we always get love from Tennessee. We always love the vibe there. Going to Knoxville for Fanboy once again.
Knoxville is such a great place, man. It's small, but it feels so big. Yeah. And it's growing, like Nashville and like Knoxville, and I forgot that little town over there. I know it's the Nashville effect of Nash Vegas growing into everything, but it's been such a positive influence in that Knoxville area because Knoxville used to be a hole in the wall.
Right.
But it's been really cool watching Knoxville kind of like fill itself in, and now before long, it's going to be a Nashville metropolitan area that's surrounding it. Yeah.
Do a ton of film and TV. That's how I found out about Knoxville. I was like doing some film back in the day, and it just popped up, and I'm like, wait a minute, why are we filming in Knoxville of all places?
I mean, you look at the outskirts of Atlanta now. That's where The Walking Dead was filmed.
Absolutely.
The whole town and village is out there, and it's been used in so many more. Like a lot of your favorite TV shows and movies and stuff have all been filmed on that Walking Dead set that was built in Georgia back in 2008 or whatever it was, 12, whatever. But yeah, it's a pretty cool place too. I don't know if you've had a chance to to go out there and see it. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been around it. So we're gonna be getting back to Knoxville for Fanboy, and then we're gonna try to get back into Nashville this year later on. Open up the applications for the Southern Festival of Books. So yeah, we always get mad love from Tennessee, so we want to get back over there.
That's really cool, man. And it's con season. I'm always happy to hear when my guests are getting out to cons and really getting their exposure in that way, because I think that's really the best way to grow your fan base. Social media is great, but that one-on-one that you get with the clients or the customers is a whole nother thing.
Absolutely.
It's an exhilarating feeling as well, and you can ride that adrenaline all day until it's time to pack up and go home, and then it's just like, oh.
Yeah. Hopefully the box is lighter though, because you sold a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hopefully the pockets are a little heavier. That's for sure. So, what legacy do you want your work to leave? I mean, you're building a great legacy. What is it like that you want to be left?
If I could just be remembered as a guy who grew up in the ghetto of Liberty City in Miami, who basically worked his tail off to get through school, get his degrees and education, and actually still had enough room to squeeze all of his passion and love of fiction and telling stories into creating his own stuff that actually got packaged and sold. And I had an opportunity to go around and tell people about it and inspire other people to do the same. That would be great for me.
Best feeling ever, dude. I love to hear that too. And what better, than 10 years from now, somebody to be on a podcast like this and, hey, I've seen this one graphic novel from Braxton, and that's what really was my inspiration to do my next step. And it's such a great feeling.
Yes.
And I hope someday there's a podcaster out there who would say the same thing about me,
For sure.
only do it better.
That's right. That's right.
But let's jump into a little bit of the advice, some creator advice here. What is your best advice for indie creators right now, whether it's comic books, graphic novels, somebody just now getting into it and diving into it? What's the best advice you can give them?
Stick to story. Whatever book you have to pick up, whatever resource, whatever intensive that you can take. I took an 8-week intensive on writing story when it came out of scripting, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am for that. Master your craft. Don't just put stuff out there because you think that you got a great idea. That goes only so far.
Mm-hmm.
People will remember your story if they really, really like what you did, and you have to have an outline. But if you don't have an outline, you don't have a story. And so make sure that you understand how to create an outline, and that way, that's going to be your pathway. That's going to give you direction and focus, and you'll be able to put out something that people will really enjoy. And there's rules to writing, and if you use the rules, people have this great experience and not even know how you just kind of manipulated them into loving your story. But if you get those rules together, you really set yourself up for being successful as a writer.
And what's great about it, yes, there's rules to it, but everybody is different. So you may read one way of doing it. Right. You may read 2 or 3 ways of doing it. You're always going to adopt your own methodology that you find that works for you.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a mixture of multiple different theories of writing,
Mm-hmm.
So again, just if that's what you're interested in, like he just said, just read about writing, which is crazy to say, right. But you have to read about writing.
Yeah. And whatever you write, you need to read. You need to see what successful people have done with that genre, so that it's a copycat league. Oh man, they wrote it this way. They set this character this way. I had a way I was going to set my character up too. I'm just going to follow their format,
Yeah. But then you get that that's great until you realize you just wrote the same as that character they did.
Right. Well, I mean,
it sounds and it feels the same.
There's tone shift. You know what I mean? Like in Hollywood, they have a saying. It's like, give me the same but different. You know what I mean? Because there's only so many ways you can tell a story.
Yep.
But okay, how many orphan stories have we seen that have been successful? And you think that we'd be done with orphan stories, but there's an orphan story.
Oh, there's always a new murdering orphan out there, man.
Because people understand that, and so you got to still stay in that realm of what people understand by giving them something with a different wrinkle in it,
Oh, yeah. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about publishing?
That you're going to be an overnight success. If I put this out, everybody's going to go buy it. Oh, I can't wait to sell 1 million copies. Okay.
I always like to say, nobody thinks you're special except yourself and your mom.
How about to say your mama? Yeah.
No, that's a good one. So what do you think separates creators who succeed versus those who fail?
Those who don't give up. I mean, you got to realize that this is a marathon. This is not a sprint, and if you have passion for your project and you have ideas, get out there, share it to the world and speak on it, because people will get along. They'll come alongside you if they see that you're really, really into it. I cannot tell you how many times I start a dialogue about something and they say, well, and then people start to like you and they say, well, tell me about your book. And you tell them and they go, well, yeah, I want to support. I want to pick it up. That sounds interesting. So, but you got to know it. You got to love it too. And if you love your story, then other people will love it as well.
I always like to think too, the successful creators, they have a longer list of failures behind them.
Yes, absolutely.
So, all right, I told you we were going to do a quick fire round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Favorite samurai film?
If we're talking about live action film,
Your choice.
The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise.
Ooh, that one, that was good, and it shouldn't have been because it's Tom Cruise. Not a Tom Cruise fan, but
Right.
I would go 47 Ronin myself with
Very good too,
Yano. But hey, both got that same feel to them. Your favorite historical figure beside Yasuke, he cannot be an answer.
Historical figure. Malcolm X.
Oh, damn, good one. All right. Writing soundtrack.
Oh, my writing soundtrack? I'll be honest, I always use audiobooks. I just put on my favorite list of audiobooks. I'm like, ooh, tonight I'm listening to this. Whatever I'm writing, I'm listening to.
So it's funny when I'm writing these, I'm listening to music, but on road trips, I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks.
Yep.
But I'm also like, you're from Atlanta, man. You could have gave me Outcast, and I would have been like, hell yeah, dude. Because that's my people right there.
Migos are my people.
Okay.
I like Outkast. I love Outkast. I grew up on Outkast, but like now, man, if I'm bumping, I got the Migos in there.
Okay. No, that was one of the first times I felt like I legit drove to Atlanta just to see Outkast at some music festival.
Yeah.
In Atlanta. I did not fit in, I'll say it like that. But I was very welcomed, and it was really cool. And I went to the barbecue.
Always. You don't have to fit in, but we're going to always welcome you for sure.
It's just, oh man, I love Atlanta. I can't say enough great things about it. So I don't know how much you read indie comics, but indie comics you recommend. And this time you can say Yasuke.
I could say Yasuke, but I'll be quite honest with you. The Menzuo saga is fantastic. We have another author named Chris McCauley. He's actually written on the Babylon 5 comic series.
Okay.
He's actually written on the
IDW, right?
Huh?
IDW does the Babylon 5.
Yep. And he's also done the Bram Stoker universe of regular comics. But he gifted us with Nexus Astrum, which is our one is a comic, one is a graphic novel. One is a manga novel, one is a comic. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of run side by side, even though they're different timelines. It's like the novel is 30 years in the past and the or present if you think about future time.
Yeah.
Either way, they're separated by 30 years. So you have a whole bunch. It's big fighting robots. So there's mecha that look more like the mech warrior, kind of slower things, and then he's got the ones in the future, like 30 years forward, that look more like Gundam. And Nexus Astrum is a fantastic series. I'm actually finishing up the novel now on Kindle.
Okay.
And I like my boy Dan Price with Bigfoot knows karate.
Okay. Yeah. So coffee, tea, or what are you using for late night fuel to keep you going?
Tea all day. Chai.
Okay. I am very much a coffee guy from the time I wake up till a few hours before bed. Mm-hmm. Like I just finished a cup.
There you go.
After dinner, I gotta have it, Living in Asia, that's what they do. After dinner, they have a cup of coffee, and I just kind of picked it up. So, But Braxton, plug away, man. Where can people find you at in your work?
Yeah, if you guys want to come by, www.cosbymediaproductions with an S.com. There you'll be able to subscribe to our newsletter, get all the updates on new stuff we got coming out. You'll be able to scroll right down the center by genre and find anything in those genres you like: young adult, fantasy, science fiction, poetry, inspirational, you name it, we got it. On the side, you'll be able to see our links that take you to our social media for X, for Instagram, and for Facebook. On Instagram, we are starchild_comics. On for Cosby Media Productions, we are Cosby Media Productions. And if you just want to follow me, it's Braxton A. Cosby on Instagram and in Facebook.
Awesome. And also, all those links will be listed down below this in the description when this gets re-released onto YouTube.
Okay.
And also, it will be underneath the description of the actual podcast itself when it goes live on podcasting platforms. So you will be able to see that no matter where you listen to the USDN app, you will be able to find those links for sure. But Braxton, dude, awesome to have you on. Such a fun time. A good way to close out a Wednesday evening. So
No, it was my pleasure, man. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be a part of what you guys are building, and it was fantastic.
no, I appreciate that. So history remembers warriors, stories remember legends, and sometimes the most powerful journeys are ones that bridge both worlds. Braxton, again, thank you for bringing Yasuke's legacy to new audiences and for reminding us that the strongest heroes aren't defined by where they start, but by what they choose to become. Make sure you check out the Yasuke duology, support the creators, follow the journey, and keep champion indie storytelling. This has been the USDN podcast where indie comics come to life. The council is now adjourned. Y'all be safe out there.
It's a trap!